Rhythms and Rhythmic Notation, Part 4, Swing. At the start of this series, we looked at how rhythm is almost like a board game, where the basic rules act as a foundation, but you can add expansions that add different abilities and new possibilities. The next expansion builds on a lot of the ideas we've already looked at. It's called Swing, when eighth notes go rogue. Swing is an important rhythmic and stylistic concept that originated as jazz began to develop in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. There's also a specific subgenre of jazz called swing music, usually associated with the big bands of the 1930s. But the rolling, tumbling, and lilting qualities of swing have shown up in many different genres. Performing in swing style includes a number of implied stylistic adjustments that can really bring a lot of life to the music, but the most fundamental difference has to do with rhythm. Most of the time, when dividing the beat from quarter notes into eighth notes, each one is equal in length and takes up half the beat. These are known as straight eighths. But swing works by dividing the beat into two unequal parts. Nothing changes in the way the music is notated, besides adding the word swing, but that word indicates a number of changes to how the piece is performed. The biggest is making the eighth notes on the beat long, and the eighths off the beat short. And while the specific division varies among musicians and genres, broadly speaking, it's about a 2/3 to 1/3 division of downbeats to upbeats. Swing essentially turns the eighth notes into a repeated long-short triplet rhythm. And sometimes you see this notation on sheet music, to indicate swing specifically being a triplet pattern. And if you wanted to, you could certainly just write swing music in triplets, or even in 12/8. But this concept of writing swing rhythms in standard eighth note notation endures for a few reasons. But the biggest one is probably because 12/8 written out swing is much harder to read, because none of the notes are grouped together with any beaming. They're all just floating in the middle of the bar. While standard swing notation with eighth notes is much easier to read and know what beat any given note falls on. It's also a great shorthand, and if you write it the other way, you probably won't be accepted by the jazzers. Now, you want to be careful of just thinking of swing as long-short, because some people fall into a weird trap where they do play just that, but they're not actually playing swing. First off, you could play this. And that's definitely long-short, because the tenuto accents on the downbeats are long, and the staccato accents on the upbeats are short. But the onset of every beat is evenly spaced, every half a beat, so it's not swing. It's just straight eighth notes with long-short accents. In swing, the upbeat eighth notes come later in the beat. That's the thing that makes swing feel like swing. The upbeats are actually closer to the beat that comes after it rather than before it. So swing isn't just long-short, it's long-late. Now, once you've got the basic rhythmic concept under control, you need to remember that the word swing in music is quite powerful, because it doesn't just affect rhythm. There are a number of stylistic changes too. We'll get into some of the details on this in a moment, but as with so many things in music, it's really important to listen to great musicians and try to emulate and learn from their style. And you should also speak to your teacher about this, hopefully someone with experience in jazz and blues and swing music. And speaking of which, I teach lessons online. I've had the pleasure of working with students all over the world about all kinds of musical topics, including jazz and improvisation, practice habits, and composition. I play trumpet, but most of my students actually don't, and they're just looking for a wide-angle lens on how to get better at music in one way or another. Please visit my website for more information on pricing and how to set up a meeting. Now, stylistically, I find there are a couple of common traps that musicians can fall into. One is they over-articulate everything. If every note is short, it can make the music sound really stilted and what we sometimes call rickety-tickety. Or you might try to slur everything all together. But if everything is too smooth and connected, it can actually make the music sound kind of sloppy and uninteresting. Now, the specific execution of this will depend on what instrument you play. But a good general guideline is to emphasize the upbeat and slur to the downbeat. Also, in swing music, the quarter notes tend to be short and kind of punchy, with a bit of space between them. Longer notes get full value, but notes that start on the upbeat also often have an implied accent as well. Depending on the context, you might not see a lot of articulation markings on your music, and you'll be free to interpret it however you like. But in a larger ensemble like a jazz big band, the composer will probably be a lot more detailed in their expression markings, so that everyone knows what the expectations are, and they all sound good and consistent playing together. You don't tend to see a lot of 16th notes in swing music, but it does happen from time to time. And usually you just play them like normal 16ths and ignore the underlying swing pattern. They're just 4 to a beat, evenly spaced. But you do occasionally see swung 16ths, and they'll be specifically marked as such if that's what the composer wants. Swung 16ths usually show up in really slow music when the composer wants a moment of rhythmic density. And really, although the basics of swing are pretty simple, there's a lot of subtlety to the execution. But you want to be careful of getting too caught up in the details, or you might suffer from paralysis by analysis, when really the best way to learn this stuff is just to listen to the kind of music you want to play, practice a whole bunch, and try to emulate the musicians that you admire. And if you're looking for repertoire and play-alongs to work on swing music, consider TomPlay, which has a huge catalog of jazz, blues, and swing music, with sheet music and high-quality play-along recordings for every instrument at every level of difficulty, from beginner to advanced. It's almost like a streaming site, but instead of TV and movies to watch, TomPlay is a massive library of over 80,000 different pieces of music for you to read and play along with. And aside from jazz and swing, there's also pop songs, classical, video game music, exercises, etudes, and more. You can get a 14-day free trial using my link in the description, or you can actually get an incredible 30% off your first year just by signing up as a free member of my Patreon, where I'll be posting a special link just for my patrons. Details on that in the description. Thanks so much to my channel members and patrons for helping make these videos possible. If you'd like to become a member, you'll get access to all kinds of exclusive resources to learn to improvise, learn all your scales in just 24 hours, and learn to understand theory better. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.